Discussion? Our next agenda is item F, licensing. And for that, we're going to go to our licensing committee chair, Mr. David Diaz.
Okay. Licensing item 1, review and possible approval of August 6, 2019 licensing committee meeting summary report. Good morning. The meeting summary report can be found on page 142. The licensing committee met on August 6, 2019. It was a productive meeting, and the committee identified several items for the board to consider today. Later in the legislation portion of the meeting, the board will consider whether to pursue legislation to create a new residential remodeling and home improvements license classification, raise the minor work exemption, and streamline the retroactive renewal process. The committee reviewed all of these proposals and provided input. I look forward to hearing the board comment on these items. Are there committee members that would like to add or comment on the committee meeting summary report? Do board members have any comments? Guess not. Does anyone from the public have any comments? Might as well.
Hi, I'm Phil Vermeulen, and I'd be remiss if I didn't say that I'm in support of this. I think it's very long overdue. We were talking about the underground economy, and it's running rampant, and we've got to do everything we can to level that playing field, getting these people in playing on that level playing field, paying their workers' comp, paying all the fringes and benefits and things that have to be done. So I can't strongly urge you enough to vote in favor of this today. So thank you.
Any other public comment? Seeing none, can I please get a motion and a second to approve the committee meeting summary report?
So moved.
Second.
Do board members have any comments? Does anyone from the public have any comments? Kayla, roll call, please.
Johnny Simpson.
Aye.
Kevin Albanese.
Aye.
Frank Altamura.
Aye.
Augie Beltran.
Aye.
David Diaz.
Aye.
Susan Granzella. Mike Clayton.
Aye.
Nancy Springer. Motion carries.
Shut my mic off, sorry about that. The next item is update and presentation of the board's Construction Management Education Accounts Fund program, which begins on page 150. Justin will provide a brief update on the activities this year.
Thank you, David. So we actually did our standard process for the year. In August, our invitation for proposals went out. We've identified 6 qualified programs throughout the state that are eligible to apply this year. Those applications are going to be due early October. We do an internal review, and then we give the executive committee an opportunity to comment on what staff determined for the distribution of the grant funds. So long as there's no concerns about the distribution, typically in about January and February, those checks are cut and sent out to the program. So that's what we foresee happening this year. On page 151 of your report, thank you to Rick Lopes, who put this together along with some of my staff. It's just a summary of our distributions over the past several years. You'll see CSU Chico hands down is our biggest program, and so we're really excited to hear from Chico today. That's all I have, David. Thank you.
Thank you, Justin. Next, I have the privilege of introducing Professor Chris Solder, who is in the chair of the Chico State University's Chico's Construction Management Program. Chris has been at Chico State full-time since 2004, following a 16-year career with, is that Kiewit? Kiewit, one of the country's largest heavy civil construction companies. The program has 18 faculty, and since 1997, the program has graduated approximately 3,500 students. Construction management is accredited by the American Council of Construction Education, ACCE. Chris leads a remarkable program that provides 4-year construction management education to students, as well as hands-on experience by working community service projects. We invite we invited him here today to talk about the program and how the CMEA dollars get spent. Welcome, Chris.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Talk? Okay. I forgot we wrote all that. Now that cuts out about the first minute of what I was going to say. Anyways, welcome to Chico. I kind of took the liberties of putting together my presentation to show you what we do in construction management, and along the way you'll kind of see where the funds are spent, hopefully, and I'll try to point it out here and there. Again, I am a ex-Kiewit person, building bridges, dams, treatment plants for 16 years before I came to Chico. So I've been here since, I think, 2004, around there. So, okay. I've got some bunch of slides, so if you want to try to turn around there. We're in the School of Engineering. Headed up, we have a dean and an associate dean. Most universities of construction management is housed within either School of Engineering, School of Architecture, sometimes the School of Business. We have 3 full-time tenured track professors. I'm one of them. We just hired on 3 tenured track professors. Sorry, I mentioned we were tenured professors. These are the tenure track professors, all from industry. That's something you're going to find from our faculty, is that we all have over 10 years experience and some up to 20 or 25 years experience. So that's kind of what makes Chico State Construction Management stand out amongst some of the others, is the experience we bring to the classroom. Here's some of our new lecturers that we're grooming right now. They have full loads, and they're all either have their masters or in the process of getting their masters. We have some part-time lecturers, and then we also have some people in our early retirement program. So it's a little challenging right now as chair to schedule our classes. Oh, I'm sorry. Let me back up. I brought Mandy Thomas with me today. Mandy, give us a wave. Mandy's our right-hand person in the office. She kind of runs things, and I do whatever she says. So anyways, I thought, Mandy, it would be good if you guys could see the face that maybe some of you might call the office and talk to Mandy. So anyways, scheduling with part-time help, it gets a little challenging. That's all I was going to say. And then Rovan just retired in May. Some of you might know Rovan. He is one of the persons that actually established this great grant, and we will forever owe part of this to Rovan. So some of you know him, and we're going to miss him. But he's plenty busy on the golf course, so you don't have to worry about him. Okay. One thing we work on weekly in our department is keeping up with our curriculum. So we work tight with the industry. We have an industry advisory council, which I'm the chair of. We meet on usually twice a year, but for sure every May, and we're always throwing curriculum changes and reviews at them. These are some of the classes. I'm not going to get into the details. These are some of the changes we're working on just this year that are going to roll out 1 year from today. As you know, in any academia or state agency, it takes a little while to roll something out. You know, when we think about something, about 2 years later, it's actually going to happen. These are just some things that you can see. The IAC and the CAC, that's our department, and talking, and we're sharing our curriculums with them, and they are giving the thumbs up, making suggestions, those types of things. Another thing we spend a lot of time on is our outreach. Mostly community college, although we do consider the high schools outreach. They're just a little harder to get to because there's so many of them. At least with the community colleges, we have less than 60 of them in our area in Northern California that we can actually go after. And then if you really whittle down to the ones that are have an engineering or construction program, that brings it down to 20 or 30. Now that's a manageable number we can kind of go after if we kind of divide the state up, and I'll show you how we do that in a second. The articulations with the community colleges is really important. This means that they have some classes that if you take it at the community college and you transfer to Chico, you already get credit for those classes, and you don't have to take them at Chico State. So the more classes we can do, and we only do the freshman and sophomore level courses, the more we can do, the better, because then the student can come to Chico as a transfer student, and if that person can get out in 2 to 2.5 years, then we're doing them a service and everybody else a service. As you know, there's a big push in the state to graduate students quicker, you know. If they come in as a freshman, we're trying to get them out in between 4 and 5 years, and if they come in as a transfer student, we need to get them out between 2 and 3 years. The 6 and 7 year student, we're trying to do away with them. So if you were one of those, I apologize. I hope I didn't offend you. Okay, so articulation is very important, and we're working hard. So basically, we have articulations that we're finding from other junior colleges that are up to 20 years old. So we're looking at those going, okay, what are they really teaching now? It's 20 years ago it said they were going to teach this, but are they really doing that now? We're finding in some cases they are not. So what we're doing is telling them this is what you're going to teach, or we're going to drop your articulation, basically, in a nutshell. We say it a little nicer than that. Butte College, you would think we would be articulated 100%. They're right down the road, but we're not, of all community colleges. But they're working on 5 classes that are going to come straight across. Gavilan, they're down in Gilroy. They received a bunch of grant money to start a whole construction program. We found out about that. I went down there and met with them. I showed them our syllabi. They're going to match our construction classes. And they're probably going to hire local contractors, a lot of them, to teach those classes because, you know, it's a brand new program. So what I've done is I broke up mostly the North State between some of our partner companies. You might recognize some names up there. North State, North Bay, Sacramento, East Bay, et cetera. And then we've partnered with companies in those areas to help us go to those community colleges and talk to their programs about Chico State construction management as a viable degree for a student. Just like we would do through the high schools, as you heard earlier from the gentleman that spoke before me. So, you know, we're starting with the community colleges. We're eventually going to try to get to the high schools. Our idea with the high schools is to send our students that went to those high schools as ambassadors and have them talk up our program to those high schools. So in the next couple of years, with more funding, I think we'll get something like that started. Student success. We spend a lot of time getting our students out quicker. It's referred to as the GI 2025, and by 2025, the state mandated all the CSUs to graduate their freshmen and their transfer students quicker than they have in the past, and I forget what the percentages are, but it's about a 20 to 30% improvement from current. And I pretty much already mentioned that. What we're doing in construction management is we're having mandatory advising. We're making our students go to their advisor and figure out when they're going to graduate and set it as a goal and do their best to make that a goal. So we spend a lot of time with our students. We have 500 students right now, so this is just part of the process, we go through in order to make that happen. Okay. Job placement and internships. Mandy has a helper in our office, and her main job, her name's Carly DeLuca, her main job is to organize the companies coming to construction management and interviewing and hiring our students. They hire our students as interns and as full-time when they're graduating. We have 60 to 80 companies coming every year to look at our students. Now, you heard about the shortage in labor. We all know that. We have the same shortage in management. Okay, we have a lot of retirements. We need to fill those spots as project engineers, project managers, field engineers, superintendents. Well, the trades, I'm very tight with the union, the Carpenters Union down in Las Vegas. I go down there and train down there 3 times a year, so I hear the same stuff down there. You know, there's just not enough kids to fill the spots. You know, the position's not as sexy as sitting behind your computer. Well, we got to try to figure out a way to show them that it is sexy, and, you know, you do get to use a computer. You just get to build cool stuff, too. So job placement's huge. And again, there is a big shortage. The last time we tracked between us and the other 5 or 6 California CM schools, we're not even dipping into a quarter of the demand that's out there, maybe a third to a quarter. That's a huge gap in fulfilling those vacancies. So we're doing our best to do that. One thing, you know, we like to do surveys. So we started a survey couple years ago, when the students come back from their internship, we want to know how their experience was. We can share this information with the contractors to tell them that, hey, this is what you should do to have a good internship program. And at the same time, the students learn how to also experience a good internship program. This is just one out of many slides. We can ask the question, what part of the industry did you intern in? And, the purple's commercial building, that's, always been the highest, but then the other sectors are heavy civil, mechanical, electrical, mixed use, and some specialties, other specialty trades. So we're going to graduate about 110 graduates to about 70 plus companies. As of yesterday, I had 207 responses to my survey, so that's over 200 interns we sent out this summer to these same, probably more companies do interns, so I put 80 plus companies doing interns. So I expect to get almost 250 responses to my survey here by the end of this week, and again, the information is very valuable. Another program we're involved with the Carpenters Union is they allow our students to join the Carpenter Apprenticeship Program for the whole summer. They make union wages, they wear tools, they go out in the field, and they get to get their hands dirty for a whole summer. We try to encourage our freshmen and sophomores to do this because as they get to juniors and seniors, we try to push them more towards the construction management type internships where they're actually on a site or in the office estimating and doing things that they're going to be doing when they graduate from here. Great program. We're trying to build it up more. Some projects that some money will may or may not go to. I just focused on one. We have a lab we call Connell 127. It was just a typical, just straight lab. Patrick Brittle, one of our faculty members, put in a request to create a more usable space for certain classes where students work in teams. So what you'd see in this lab, and I apologize not having the final picture, but I have a rendering here, is where these, there's monitors all around the room, and teams of 5 would sit around the monitor. They can use their laptops and switch back and forth between the big screen and their laptops. And then the professor of the class also can control those big screens for what they're talking about. Faculty support is where a lot of the money that we get from the CSLB, CSLB. And so I showed you just one thing that we do in our department that I started when I became chair. When we run construction, what do? We're looking at our budget, right? And we got to make our budget. So we treat the graders the same way. All the professors tell me they all get allotted grader hours, and we track, Mandy helps me track how many hours they actually pay their grader, and we create graphs that say they're either above or below their goal. So in this case, the blue would be over their goal, and the orange being the goal. So, we look at it like we would any production in construction. Now let's get into the students. What are the students doing? Virtual reality, we bought some headsets. Some of our professors are using them in the classroom. We have several clubs, and I'll just kind of hit on them as quick as I can here. Design Build Institute of America. We go on field trips, we do job walks, we do community service. The Associated Schools of Construction, we go up to Sparks, Nevada every year and compete against about 40 to 50 other universities. Typically, we'll send 6 to 7 teams, and we placed last year in 3 of the 7 categories. That's not bad. So if you can place first through third in one half of what you compete in, that's pretty good. So we're pretty proud of our students there. These are the student clubs that I kind of put them out of order. I already talked about DBIA, but we'll talk about some of these other clubs. Obviously, everybody's heard of AGC. IOTA is a honor society. MCA is Mechanical Contractors Association. And one of the things we're most proud of since the spring is the women in construction. We have about 10% females in construction, which is about what the industry has as a whole. We're trying to elevate that. It's not an easy thing to do, but it's very needed. So I think with this club, hopefully we can inspire some more young ladies to join. And that was really sparked by the hiring of Marie Patterson and Jamie Cochran, who I showed 2 pictures of. I kind of went through that quickly. But once they started 2 years ago, that was something that they really took to heart and were able to run with. And now we have about 45 women in our department, and we hope to get as many of them involved with that club as possible. The Associated General Contractors is our biggest club. This is one of their iconic projects they did called Caper Acres. Those of you familiar with Bidwell Park here in Chico, that was a 6-month-long project. They're very active. They go to conferences. They win lots of awards. Alan Bond's the advisor, and whatever Alan does typically is high performance. So Alan's one of our best. I'm the advisor to the Honor Society. We built the Children's Museum downtown on Main Street. If you have a chance to go by there, take a look. It's for small children to go and pretend like they are working in a cafe, doctor's office, veterinary. There's a lot of cool little displays. The right, we were talking about the campfire earlier. So we've gotten involved with the Honey Run Covered Bridge. And so the bridge was built in 1887, 130 years old. And so the bridge burned down in the fire. There was also a home on the same site that was a caretaker home. So I'm the project manager, pro bono, of the bridge, working with Quincy Engineering out of Rancho Cordova and the HRC Honey Run Covered Bridge Association folks. We raised some money. We gave them $25,000, and I guess that was enough for them to reel me in, and now they got me hook, line, and sinker. So I'm committed through construction of the end of next summer. The bridge site's in the photo on the right. We're in the middle of engineering. Yesterday, our exploratory drilling began, and I'm going to go up there right after this meeting to kind of take some pictures and watch the drilling going on. But basically, we're looking at what the foundation has to be, because as you know, in 1887, the foundation probably wasn't what it would have been today. So looking forward to this project. We have to raise $2.5 million to make it happen. We have $500,000 right now. So if you got any ideas for me and some donors, hit me up after the meeting, okay? Sorry, this is a repeat slide. So design build, they get involved with Equestrian Park, which is over by Butte College. And just another project, building horse shade structures. And let's get to what we really want to see, which is student involvement. So they worked almost 500 hours. That's pretty typical of one of our community service projects. Sometimes we'll spend 3 months, 6 months planning, and maybe 1 month actually building. So there's a lot of pre-planning, pre-construction involved. So this is the design build team out there erecting these structures. MCA does a lot of conferences. They have a lot of fun. I used to be the advisor for this for years until we hired Marie, and Marie has a mechanical background, so I turned the club over to her. She's much better suited for this than I was. And again, they do golf tournaments. They do a lot of traveling, a lot of fun times. And then I mentioned the women in construction. It's a new chapter. They've already got $20,000 of fundraising, which I probably shouldn't tell you that because, I could have maybe put that on my grant list, but they're well supported. It probably doesn't surprise you that when you say in construction that you want to elevate women in construction, people trip over themselves to come and give money, and it's a good thing, so I'm pretty proud of that. And there's some of the founding members with Marie and Jamie on each end there. After the fire, I was trying to figure out how we might be able to help, and through one email to about 120 of our contractors, we were able to raise over $200,000 in 12 days. I gave $50,000 to Wildcat Rise, which was helping Chico State faculty and students directly. North Valley Community Foundation, who's a local foundation that raises money for causes. I gave $12,000 directly to School of Engineering students that lost their homes or property. The Turner Construction Fund contributed considerably with us. And then I gave $25,000 to the Honey Run Cover Bridge Association. And then lastly, I helped support a grant to do testing. I put water quality up there, but they're really looking at all construction materials within the house and infrastructure on what we could do better to resist fires-prone areas, even down to underground pipe, electrical conduits, the building itself. So we're looking at that is just seed money. Hopefully they can raise a couple $100,000 and really get this thing going nationwide. And we have about 7 professors in the School of Engineering that are part of that. So we have a little money left, looking for some good causes. Probably going to focus more on money that can help individuals that lost their home. Because I realize when you tell somebody you gave $20,000 to rebuild a bridge to nowhere just because it was a historical landmark, some people aren't really into that, but some people really are. The theory behind that is if you can show that the community that you're rebuilding history and infrastructure, hopefully that boosts and elevates their excitement to rebuild instead of leaving and going to another area. Any questions? I don't know how long I went. I apologize if I went too long, but. All right, thank you.
Do any board members have any comments? Does anybody from the public have any comment? Guess not. So your next item is the licensing program update, which begins on page 154 and contains statistics through the end of July. Justin, can you give the update?
Certainly. Chris, thank you again for that presentation. The statistics for the last 3 months are fairly consistent from what we've seen over the past year. Our applications are certainly still up. The peak was in the spring, but we're still receiving, for example, in July, we got a total of 1,200 applications. That's certainly above normal for us. And so we believe that by the end of our calendar year, our application count will be just as high as it was in the previous year, just based on projection. We're still on page 155. Our processing is still staying up. We've authorized overtime for 2 particular units, the original exam application unit and also our criminal background unit. The rest of the units are able to basically maintain the workload, but we're working through a bit of a backlog for the exam application unit. Then with regard to our overall processing times, again, with our original exam, it is starting to peak up. We're trying to address that through overtime. The rest of the exam processing timelines, renewal timelines, things of that nature are still pretty much being the same. So we're addressing our goals there. Again, on page 157, our processing times for exam app are a little bit up. The rest of our program, we're not seeing an impact at this point. Pretty standard. And then just looking at our disposition of applications, again, our numbers are looking fairly consistent with past years. That's on page 158. One thing that we are looking at is sort of improving our internal processes and policies to make sure that we don't have any unintentional barriers to licensure just within our actual process. We're actually doing that in coordination with the executive office at the moment, and I would like to compliment one of my staff. Her name is Sarah Allen. She's been doing a phenomenal job of just looking at why we do certain things in one of our units, specifically our experience verification unit. So I did want to thank Sarah for her hard work on that. Renewals received per month in July. We had some higher than expected numbers just because we were around 10,000. But you'll notice, just looking historically, it sort of ebbs and flows seasonally. Summer, you usually see an uptick. And then in the winter months, fewer people renew just because of whenever they receive their actual license. Again, I'm working with Stacy to carefully track this. We'll continue to see how our renewals numbers are going in future meetings. Moving to workers' compensation, no real changes here. Again, most have the exemption. These numbers are being fairly consistent for the past 3 months as they have been in the past year. Our active license classification on page 161, again, I'd hate to be a broken record, but fairly consistent from just our overall population. Our background check, again, we're actually pulling, the denial is fewer than 1%, and we continue to have that trend. We actually get rap sheets on roughly 1 to 2%, and that really hasn't changed from historical averages. Finally, our experience verification statistics, again, been fairly consistent for the last 3 months. We had to actually work through a bit of a backlog in experience verification just because, thankfully, one of our staff promoted, and so we just had to make sure we did a little bit of extra work. We're actually looking to have someone start in that unit on October 1st. We're very excited to have him come over, and we expect that backlog to come. It's actually already fairly addressed, but we just have a few more cases to resolve, but otherwise, nothing to report. We have a breakdown on 164, as we usually do, just on classification of experience verification. As always, it's really the B classification that's the highest, just because of our total license count. Our LIC statistics, so that's our actual call center. Our call times were up a little. That was partially due to call volume and our internal procedures just to change on some of the advice that we're giving to our calls. So the call wait time is a little bit up, but we're still meeting the below 6 minute, the below 6 minute standard that we've set internally for ourselves. Judgment statistics are still fairly consistent with what they've been. This quarter has been consistent with the past year. Nothing new to report. We're projected to essentially be collecting reimbursements consistent with what we've done historically. That's the same with the state, the actual state outstanding liabilities, which is just a subset of those statistics. And with that, any questions?
Just one comment, and I think this is, I'm not sure, but, you know, in the priority of things, given our budget condition and the challenge with cost, overtime for new applications, I would just throw out is when we look at the priorities of enforcement of renewals, I would probably say applications are on the lower end. Remember, once somebody has that license, that's their property right. The burden's on them at the application stage, so if there's an opportunity perhaps to reprioritize that overtime, you may want to consider that.
Okay.
Thank you, Kevin. Any other board members have any other comments?
Maybe another question. Do we collect feedback or surveys from contractors on the overall applications process?
We do not actively collect feedback similar to what we do for enforcement with the consumer satisfaction survey. I certainly collect quite a bit of anecdotal evidence, speaking with individuals. We get some from our actual workshops that we conduct. So for example, Kayla and Anna Rodriguez do a twice a month workshop where we do get some feedback on what's onerous about the process. And we're also conducting some informal surveys, but that's through those workshops. And I think David.
No, I just was hoping you would mention that you have developed a survey for the testing centers for the, right?
Yes.
We're going to start using that.
So it's not the entire application process, but as part of our analysis of whether exam administration should be outsourced or not, we're actually in the process. We started this Monday collecting a survey on how people are feeling about the exam experience at our various units. We're going to collect that data over a month and compare it to some data that's collected by a vendor called PSI Exams.
Okay, does any other board members have any other comments? No. Anybody from the public have a comment? Thank you, Justin. Moving on to the next agenda item, which is on page 170. It's the testing program update. Wendy, our testing division chief, will provide the update.